are you going to avoid giving feedback? Every time that you avoid a feedback discussion, the issue doesn't disappear. It grows and it festers. But today, we're talking about how you can give feedback with clarity, confidence, and of course, intention. This is Coach Laney, an attorney and executive career coach, and we're talking about feedback because it's one of the most dreaded topics in leadership, but it is time for us to reframe that conversation because feedback is not a personality test, it's information. And leaders who treat feedback as information, but not emotion, get far better results. When feedback is delayed or avoided, problems, they don't go away, they compound. What starts as a small issue can turn into frustration, confusion, and of course, damage trust. But clear feedback protects performance, relationships, and of course, your credibility as a leader. But before we get into the steps, here's a simple framework that I want you to keep in mind. Effective feedback comes down to four things. Your tone, your clarity, impact, and of course, direction. When you get these right, feedback conversations become far more productive. And I know you want to have far more productive feedback conversations. So let's start with step one. Set the tone first. Feedback should never feel like an ambush. Your first responsibility as a leader is to create psychological safety. When people feel defensive, they stop listening. Setting the tone signals that the conversation is about growth and not punishment. So the next thing that I want you to do is to be clear about the purpose of the conversation. Feedback is most effective when people understand why they're receiving it. Of course, you can understand that. The purpose should always be alignment, development, and success in the role. When feedback is framed as support instead of criticism, people are more open to hearing, what the feedback is. They're better able to process it as well. Step 3 is to acknowledge the strengths without overdoing it. Strong feedback really is balanced feedback. Acknowledging what someone is doing well builds trust and credibility. This is not about lowering your standards or even avoiding the fact that there are issues that need to be addressed. It really is about reinforcing that the person is a valued member of the team, while also making it clear that there are expectations that need to be met. So the next thing that we're going to do here is to really focus on behavior and not personality. Feedback should focus on actions and patterns, but not character or intent. Personalizing feedback creates defensiveness. Keeping it behavioral keeps the conversation professional, objective, and of course actionable. So let's do that. Step 5 is to explain why the feedback matters. Feedback without context feels like criticism. Explaining impact helps people to understand why change is necessary and why the conversation is being had in the first place. When people understand how their actions affect outcomes, they're more likely to adjust and improve, and they hear the conversation better. So let's also make it a two-way conversation because feedback should not feel like a lecture. Making space for perspective builds trust and, of course, accountability. Listening does not mean that you're lowering your standards. It means that you're leading with awareness and intention. Next, I want you to shift the conversation forward. We're not going to get stuck in the past. The purpose of feedback is not to stay focused on the past, what has happened. It really is to create clarity moving forward and to think about where change needs to happen. Strong feedback ends with a shared understanding of expectations, support, and of course, next steps. So next, I want you to remember that feedback conversations are often uncomfortable, and that's normal. Leadership confidence does not come from comfort, though. It comes from clarity, even when the conversation feels difficult. We talk a lot about how you can level up with clarity and confidence on this channel. One way that you can do that is to be able to have a difficult conversation when necessary. How you give feedback shapes your leadership reputation. People remember when you were clear, fair, and respectful long after the conversation ends. This skill is one of the clearest ways that you can differentiate between managers and trusted leaders. So let's think about that. This week, I want you to ask yourself, are you avoiding feedback to protect comfort, or are you delivering it to support growth? I hope you're having conversations that support growth and alignment. I want to challenge you this week to identify one feedback conversation that you've been putting off or avoiding and go ahead and have it. Get yourself organized, lead with clarity, respect, and of course, intention. You can do it. I trust that you can do it. Leaders who give feedback, well, don't avoid hard conversations. They lean into them. They approach them with clarity, respect, and of course, intention. And mastering this skill can dramatically change how your team performs. And I know that's what you want. And how you're perceived as a leader. So keep that in mind. Listen, this is Coach Laney. I hope you enjoyed this video. We've been talking about feedback. If it resonates with you, be sure to like it, make a comment below so that we can talk about, your tips and strategies for having effective feedback conversations. Don't forget to share this video and, of course, subscribe to my channel. Remember, on a weekly basis, we are sharing tips and strategies to help you to level up with clarity and confidence. Look forward to seeing you next time. Take care now.